My mother once told me I was the most fortunate daughter in all the land. The Huo family's influence was immense, a towering presence in the imperial court. As a daughter of the Huo clan, I lived a life of privilege comparable to that of a princess. In times of political instability, my father, Huo Yan, was the indispensable pillar supporting the new emperor, wielding significant power. Noble birth, breathtaking beauty, renowned talent. All were mine for the taking. Yet, a persistent ache resided deep within my heart, an unending dissatisfaction, because the man I loved, the man whose very existence captivated my soul, did not love me in return. His name was Xiao Fan. He possessed, I believed, the most handsome face in the world, a tall and commanding physique, a voice that could soothe the fiercest storm, and a mind as sharp as tempered steel. Every facet of him ensnared me, drawing me into an inescapable obsession. He was the destined star who had emerged victorious from the chaos of war, the new master of these splendid lands, the founder of the great Qi dynasty. And he would be, I vowed, the father of my future children. The tyranny of the previous emperor had ignited rebellions across the realm. After 9 long years of fierce contention, Xiao Fan finally quelled the opposing forces and established his new dynasty. My father, Huo Yan, and the formidable resources of our clan played no small part in his ascension. The Huo family, preeminent among the gentry for centuries, had weathered countless storms, while other great families, once our peers, had crumbled under the ravages of war or succumbed to treacherous court factions. The Huo clan endured, standing proud and unbroken. The year he sought my father's counsel, Xiao Fan visited our estate. In the long sun-dappled corridor, our eyes met for a fleeting moment. A slow warm smile spread across his face, and he murmured praise for my beauty. In that single instant, captured by his smile, my heart irrevocably surrendered. After searching for him hundreds and thousands of times in the crowd, suddenly turning back, I find him there, where the lanterns dimly glow. Among all the eligible sons of noble families, my gaze fixed solely on him. But my father cautioned, "He already has a wife, Meower. He is not a suitable match." I refused to yield. My heart had chosen him. I was the favored daughter of heaven, blessed with the wisdom and foresight of my father's lineage, tempered by the ambition and fierce tenacity inherited from my mother's side. Secretly, my mother swayed several influential courtiers. They argued that the emperor's common-born wife, Yanji, lacked the necessary grace and virtue for her station, proposing that a new empress be chosen, with me being the obvious perfect candidate. Xiao Fan remained impassive. Then, during a court session, he casually expressed a desire to find the sword he had worn in his youth. My father instantly grasped the subtle implication. If one cherished an old sword, so how much more would one cherish an old companion? The matter of replacing the empress was quietly dropped. Yanji was officially crowned empress, and I, Huo Miao, eventually entered the palace as Xiao Fan's noble consort. Perhaps from the moment I stepped through those imposing palace gates, my fate was sealed. Blessed with exceptional talent, beauty, and noble birth, I was relegated to the rank of noble consort. Forced to bow to Yanji, a woman from an impoverished background. Her position as empress was secured solely through Xiao Fan's insistence. If my heart hadn't been so fiercely bound to him, the Huo family's power could have granted me anything in this world. Why else would I willingly enter the confines of the palace merely as a consort? But I wanted Xiao Fan and I wanted the empress's throne. A battle between Yanji and myself was inevitable. Though she possessed the advantage of knowing him in his humbler days, of shared history and hardship, I had the unshakable might of my clan behind me. I would not lose. I would win. My family sent me a new gown, a deep crimson silk, lavishly embroidered with 100 flowers in shimmering gold and silver thread. Paired with my goose-yellow silk shawl, it was perfect for a spring garden stroll. Today, Princess Zhouan had borrowed the palace grounds to host a banquet on the moon-embracing terrace. Invitations had been dispatched to all the high-ranking court ladies and imperial concubines. Xiao Fan's great-grandfather had been a lesser son of the main Xiao lineage from Lanling, branching off long ago. Now, with the tides of fortune turned, Xiao Fan sat upon the dragon throne, placing the main branch of the Xiao family in a somewhat awkward position. Princess Zhouyan was the principal daughter of this generation's main branch. Technically, Xiao Fan had to address her as elder cousin. Due to the distant blood ties, she was granted only the title of princess of a commandery. Princess Huo Yan thrived on social interaction, frequently organizing gatherings. Everyone understood her unique position made her the ideal hostess. Her status provided the perfect, legitimate setting for the ladies and young misses of the court to network and socialize. Find my gold filigree hairpin, the one inlaid with jade hearts. I shall wear that today. I reclined languidly in my sedan chair, the layers of white gauze curtains veiling the outside world, blurring the passing scenery. Along the path, attendants and lesser palace staff continuously knelt, averting their eyes, only daring to rise after my procession had passed. A faint smile touched my lips. This deference was my due, a subtle manifestation of Xiao Fan's favor. Though only a noble consort, my provisions and privileges mirrored those of an imperial noble consort, making me akin to a vice-empress. Just as I was about to close my eyes, the sedan chair jolted violently. The arm propping up my head slipped. "What is it?" I demanded sharply. A young eunuch attending me scrambled to answer. "Your Highness, it is the Empress's procession ahead." The bearers stopped out of respect. I lifted a corner of the curtain with a slender finger. Indeed, Yanji's sedan chair was just ahead. The sight of the vibrant red fabric emblazoned with soaring phoenixes pricked my eyes. Letting the curtain fall, I commanded coolly, "Overtake her." The eunuch hesitated. My face hardened. "Hurry. If we are late, it will be your heads." The sedan chair lifted smoothly once more. My command spurred the bearers. They dared not dally. Their steps quickened, practically flying over the flagstones, and soon Yanji's procession was directly beside us. "Your Highness." I lifted the curtain again, my voice sweet as honey, a radiant smile playing on my lips. "Elder sister, wait for me." A voice drifted back from the front. "Is that noble consort younger sister?" The tone was soft, gentle, unmistakably Yanji. "Elder sister, it is indeed I. Please wait a moment." As expected, Yanji lifted her curtain, offering a demure smile. "Younger sister?" My eunuch helped me alight. "Elder sister," I began, my tone laced with mock concern. "You manage the 6 palaces, yet your attendants seem rather poorly trained. Their clumsy movements have given me quite the headache." I gestured towards my chair bearers, implying their incompetence. "I was thinking, if elder sister doesn't mind, perhaps you could allow me to share your sedan? It's still quite a distance to the moon embracing terrace, and I fear my feet might ache." I gestured nonchalantly towards my exquisitely embroidered slippers, a large pearl gleaming on each toe. "Noble consort," Yanji's head palace maid interjected sharply, "such a request is highly irregular. Our mistress is the empress. Her sedan is not for others to share." I raised an eyebrow languidly, a half-smile playing on my lips, saying nothing, letting my status speak for itself. "Do not be impertinent," Yanji predictably reprimanded her maid. Turning back to me, her smile remained gentle, perhaps forcibly so. "Since younger sister wishes it, please come aboard." Then I thanked elder sister profusely. Our shared journey naturally drew countless stares. Being seen together invited comparison. That was precisely my aim, and it succeeded beautifully. The empress, born of common stock, possessed a gentle nature but lacked eloquence and poise. Draped in the empress's phoenix robes, she still radiated an air of provincial awkwardness, as if the magnificent garments were borrowed or even stolen. Throughout the banquet, despite being the highest-ranking woman present, the empress behaved like a guest, reserved and hesitant. She stumbled over names and ranks, clearly unfamiliar with the intricate social web of the court ladies, let alone their preferences. When Princess Huo Yan attempted to draw her into conversation, Yanji shrank back, unable to respond gracefully. I felt a surge of second-hand embarrassment for her. Xiao Fan was no longer the obscure young man from the provinces. He was the emperor. As his empress, her every action reflected imperial dignity. She desperately needed to learn, to shed that narrow commoner's perspective. The lamps in Chongqing Palace, Yanji's residence, never went out. That woman feared the dark. On the nights Xiao Fan couldn't visit the harem, her palace blazed with light, bright as day, warding off her fear. And so, thick red candles, as wide as an infant's arm, were continuously supplied to Chongqing Palace. The layers of hardened wax grew thick on the candle stands, just like in my own palace. I held no fear of the dark. Yet, on the nights Xiao Fan didn't come to me, my own candles burned until dawn, the dried tiers of wax forming thick, cold clumps in the elaborate holders. Xiaofan rarely visited the inner court these days. With the empire newly stabilized, his duties were overwhelming. On the few occasions he did step into the harem, he almost always went to Chongqing Palace. Thus, even when Chongqing Palace's lights were extinguished because he was there, mine continued to burn brightly through the lonely nights. The cloying scent of eaglewood incense made me drowsy. What use was the finest fragrance if he wasn't here to appreciate it? I closed my eyes, turning slightly on the chaise lounge. The light silk shawl slipped from my shoulder, pooling on the rich fabric beneath. Felt too indolent to retrieve it, leaving my pale shoulder and neck exposed. Suddenly, a warmth settled on my bare skin. Who? I started. Reflected in my opening eyes was the face I constantly yearned for. My initial irritation melted into a coquettish smile, tinged with playful reproach. Your Majesty! Xiaofan swept me into his arms. Cradled against his powerful chest, I giggled, poking his ribs playfully. Why has Your Majesty come? Today is the 15th. The 1st and 15th of the lunar month were traditionally reserved for the Emperor and Empress to spend the night together. A slight curve touched Xiaofan's lips. His features were sharply defined, as if carved by a master sculptor. For a moment I was lost in his gaze, reaching up to trace the line of his temple, the hair near his eyes. But his deep voice abruptly jolted me from my reverie. At the banquet today you rode with the Empress? I wrapped my arms around his neck, employing the practice wiles of a pampered consort, repeating the excuse I'd used earlier that day. But unlike other women who relied solely on the Emperor's affection, my confidence stemmed from the undeniable power of my family. A ruler's love could be fickle, but the influence of the Huo clan was a tangible weight. The smile didn't leave Xiaofan's lips. He strode towards the bed, holding me effortlessly. Those sedan bearers unable to perform even such a simple task? What use are they? Have someone give the order, execute them all. Ignoring the casual brutality, I leaned in, offering my lips. You haven't visited for so long. Your servant has waited anxiously. In the next instant, he placed me gently upon the grand canopy bed. As my sash loosened, a possessive fire kindled in his eyes. Naturally, the night unfolded under the warmth of hibiscus-patterned curtains, a spring night passing too quickly. The following day, Xiaofan's decree promoting me to imperial noble consort reverberated throughout the 6 palaces. As I ascended the tiered jade steps, clad in the magnificent robes of my new rank, the censorate officials' praises echoed around me. Below, court officials and their wives knelt in obeisance. Under the vast dome of the imperial palace, a profound understanding washed over me. The bitter taste of unattainable desire. Imperial noble consort. So what? A century hence, the Emperor and Empress would share a grand mausoleum. I would merely be granted a smaller tomb beside theirs. The injustice burned within me. If he could grant me this elevated rank, why not the title of Empress? If he could lavish me with such honor, why not the entirety of his heart, his unwavering devotion? In that moment, every fiber of my being screamed defiance. I would fight. I resolved then and there to challenge Yanji truly. It wasn't just about competing for Xiaofan's love anymore. It was a gamble with myself. I, Huo Miao, wagered that Xiaofan had felt something for me, truly felt it. That glance in the corridor, that spark of admiration. I refused to believe it meant nothing. Previously, I had maintained a proud distance, dictated by my status. If Xiaofan didn't seek me out, I would never lower myself to pursue him. The mundane tasks of cooking for him or embroidering sachets, these were beneath me. The common tricks other women used to curry favor seemed utterly laughable in my eyes. I maintained an air of noble aloofness, like snow on a high peak, allowing only the gentlest sunlight to touch me, refusing to melt into a common stream flowing down the mountainside. But from the day of my investiture as imperial noble consort, everything changed. My private kitchen perpetually simmered with nourishing medicinal soups, the ingredients varying with the seasons. Xiaofan tasted them once and praised their exquisite flavor. I began deliberately, choosing lighter, more ethereal gowns, styling my hair in ways he had admired. I even playfully begged him to paint my eyebrows, applying the delicate floral applique to my forehead myself under his gaze. More boldly, I started inventing reasons, excuses, demands to keep him in my palace. Even on the 1st and 15th, I dared to intercept him on his customary path to the Empress's quarters. My campaign for his favor was overt, aggressive. The candles in Chongqing Palace burned brighter, more frequently now, I imagined. No woman is immune to the sting of a rival's jealousy. The Empress, I was certain, had received my unspoken declaration of war. I anticipated retaliation from the Empress, but I never expected it to take this form. The Empress was pregnant. Xiaofan was ecstatic. A flood of rewards poured into Chongqing Palace. The incredibly rare and costly cardamom serenity, incense previously reserved for the emperor's use, was bestowed entirely upon Yanji. If all went well, she would bear Xiaofan his first child. Yet, when my mother came to the palace, urging me to eliminate the fetus, I refused. Being close to Xiaofan, I knew how much this child meant to him. When Yanji's headmaid had brought the news, Xiaofan had been so overjoyed he could barely articulate the rewards he was granting. The sheer, unadulterated delight in his eyes had pierced my heart with a pang of sorrow. Xiaofan wanted this child. Xiaofan loved this child already. And I loved Xiaofan desperately. My mother jabbed my forehead with a perfectly manicured finger, her voice sharp with reproach. Foolish girl. How could I have raised such an idiot? After your promotion, I boasted to your father that you'd finally shown some sense. But looking at you now, you're still utterly clueless. The emperor favors the empress. That's undeniable. Once she bears a son, he will undoubtedly be named crown prince. What footing will you have then? I bit my lip, turning my head slightly away, my usual pouting defiance when disagreeing with my parents. Absolutely not. If she wants to give birth, let her. Xiaofan visits my palace often now too. I can also bear him a son. Mother, why are you so certain my own womb will prove barren? My mother's expression clouded, her gaze shifting away from mine. Mother, I forbid it. Do not act behind my back, or I shall tell father. The golden phoenix ornament on my forehead trembled with my agitation. Finally, my mother relented with a sigh. Fine. If you won't be proactive, there's nothing more I can do. As long as the Huo family stands, you will have security. I moved closer, linking my arm through hers playfully. I knew mother doted on me most. I suddenly crave your 8 treasure sweet dumplings. Could you make a bowl for me? Amidst our lighter conversation, my mother added a final instruction. You are the imperial noble consort now. With the empress pregnant, send some appropriate gifts. Gold or jade items are safest. Maintain decorum, at least outwardly. I agreed readily. If I wasn't willing to harm Yanji's child directly, I certainly wouldn't begrudge her mere material possessions. My reluctance stemmed not from newfound compassion, but solely from my unwillingness to see Xiaofan disappointed. After my mother departed, I immediately took attendance to Chongqing Palace. Yanji, perhaps striving to embody the virtues of an empress, had implemented strict frugality throughout the harem, but she had taken it too far. Her palace felt cavernous and empty, devoid of ornamentation, possessing the cheerless austerity of a snow cave. Yet, the scent of the cardamom serenity incense was overpowering. I had only been inside for a few moments, but its heavy fragrance clung stubbornly to my robes. She was 2 months pregnant, not yet showing. I studied her flat abdomen with a strange fascination. Xiaofan's child resided within that belly. An unsettling impulse flickered. A sudden urge to slice open her abdomen, just to see what a 2-month-old fetus looked like. My gaze must have been unnerving, for Yanji flinched, shrinking back slightly. Why is she so timid? During Xiaofan's rebellion, Yanji had hidden away, living anonymously. If it had been me, I would have ridden alongside his army. Though unable to fight on the front lines, I would have remained by his side, managing his daily needs, ensuring I was never a burden. I wonder, I began casually, how much of the cardamom serenity incense the Empress has remaining? Yanji blinked, glancing towards her head palace maid. The same one who had challenged me about the sedan chair. She seemed loyal, and Yanji clearly trusted her. Your Highness, the maid replied smoothly, we burn it daily in our palace. There isn't much left. My eyebrow arched. A message clearly intended for me. The first part flaunted Chongqing Palace's favor. The second preemptively shut down any request I might make. It's nothing important. I waved a hand dismissively, admiring my newly painted nails. That incense, though costly, isn't irreplaceable. However, it is a compound fragrance. I listed a few key ingredients, then paused deliberately. And one other. Musk. That, I continued, watching her face, is why the scent is so potent. Since you are with child, using this incense is highly inappropriate. You should inform His Majesty and suggest distributing the remainder among the other concubines. I, however, have no need for it. The color drained from Yanji's face. Her hands flew protectively to her abdomen. Some things, however, fine, I smiled faintly at her terrified expression, are not meant for everyone. Xiao Fan began visiting my palace more frequently of his own accord. Yanji's belly grew larger each day. She withdrew from all palace affairs, isolating herself to nurture the pregnancy. She religiously consumed the fetal calming drafts prescribed by the imperial physicians, supplementing them with daily stews of ginseng, deer antler, and other potent tonics. Her naturally slender frame, combined with her lack of activity, made her protruding stomach appear almost unnaturally large, even grotesque. With the Empress indisposed, the authority to manage the inner court fell naturally into my hands. I immediately reversed Yanji's policy of austerity. Expenditures for the harem flowed freely. For the winter season alone, every concubine received 2 new sets of robes. The empire was stable now. It was time for Xiao Fan to relax, to enjoy the fruits of his victory. What was the point of being ruler of all under heaven if one lived in constant self-denial? During Xiao Fan's leisure hours, I engaged him in games of pitchpot within the palace gardens. A childhood pastime I rarely missed, forcing Xiao Fan to concede defeat, albeit grudgingly. I even braved the biting cold to accompany him on a deer hunt. While the venison was distributed among the harem, Xiao Fan personally carved the antlers into an exquisite ornament and presented it to me. During the 10 months of Yanji's pregnancy, I, the imperial noble consort, gradually cultivated the image and reality of being the most favored woman in the palace. Finally, Yanji went into labor on a dark, rain-lashed night. All the court's leading physicians specializing in childbirth waited anxiously outside her chambers. The capital's most skilled midwives attended her directly. Even Xiao Fan, unable to contain his excitement and anxiety, paced in the antechamber. I did not go. In youth, listening to rain in a storied pavilion, red candles casting a dim glow. In middle age, listening to rain in a traveler's boat, river wide, clouds low, the cry of a lone wild goose breaking the western wind. Now within my own gauze-curtained bed, listening to the storm rage outside, a profound melancholy settled over me. Perhaps the arrival of this child would irrevocably shift the balance in my contest with Yanji. Ultimately, I cared about this child's fate because it was his child. That was why I refused to join the other concubines keeping vigil outside Chongqing Palace, waiting for the birth announcement, eager to offer sycophantic congratulations in Xiao Fan's presence, hoping to curry favor. I couldn't bear it. Couldn't bear to witness Xiao Fan openly displaying his affection for another woman. Especially not that woman, not now. A long time passed. Just as the rain began to subside, the mournful tolling of the death knell echoed throughout the imperial city. Yanji was dead. Died amidst the very event everyone had anticipated with such hope, the birth of the heir. She had successfully delivered a son. Xiao Fan named him Ju. While my mother likely breathed a sigh of relief somewhere, my own heart leaped into my throat. Yanji was Xiao Fan's companion through hardship, his childhood friend, the woman who had shared his most difficult years, and now the one who had died, giving him his heir. All these layers combined transformed her into an insurmountable peak, a permanent, revered fixture standing between Xiao Fan and me. When Xiao Fan shut himself inside Chongqing Palace for 3 days, refusing all food and drink, I pushed open the door. Dressed plainly and simple, blue cloth, a bamboo pin securing my hair, I met his grief-stricken, wounded gaze, the look of a cornered beast, and embraced him tightly. Yanji's death was an accident. I had prevented my mother from interfering, but I hadn't accounted for the cruel whims of fate. Her death immortalized her in Xiao Fan's heart at the peak of her youth and devotion. I couldn't stop his memories, his grief, but I had to ensure he knew Yanji wasn't the only one willing to die for him. If necessary, I too would sacrifice my life for his. There, amidst the stark white mourning decorations of Chongqing Palace, I confessed everything: my love, my resentment, my ambition, my schemes. Your eyes scan the mountains and rivers, yearning for the distant past. I whispered against his chest, quoting a poignant line of poetry. Why not cherish the one who is right before you now? A tremor ran through Xiao Fan. I had used Yanji's death. If she had awareness in the afterlife, She would undoubtedly hate me with a vengeance. In the very palace where she had lived, I leveraged Xiao Fan's guilt and longing for her to cultivate a layer of pity and tenderness towards myself. Palace life was treacherous. Perhaps departing this way was, in a grim sense, better for Yanji than slowly having her memory eroded, her place in Xiao Fan's heart chipped away by my relentless presence in the years to come. But I felt no guilt. Her death was not my doing. Look at me, I thought with dark irony. So innocent, so pure in my calculated grief. When Ju turned 3, I became the empress of the great Qi dynasty. On that day, ministers chanted, "Long live your majesties," as Xiao Fan and I stood side by side on the city walls, receiving the adulation of the masses. Beneath the heavy, ornate coronation, robes beat a heart finally content. I stood beside him, finally his equal, destined to share his life and eventually his tomb. The fierce desires of my youth were, at last, sated. With me constantly by his side, Xiao Fan rarely mentioned Yanji. Her presence gradually faded from the palace, almost entirely erased. Even little Ju addressed me readily as Mother Empress. I treated Ju as my own son, and the lingering disappointment of my own inability to conceive slowly faded. When Ju turned 6, he sought me out one day. He had already begun his formal education, and our time together had lessened. I opened my arms, expecting his usual playful leap into my embrace. Instead, he shoved me hard, malice flashing in his young eyes, knocking over a newly prepared pot of rouge. His fingers, stained crimson, pointed accusingly at my face. "You're evil. You killed my real mother, didn't you?" In that instant I saw it clearly. The raw hatred simmering in this small child's eyes. The spilled rouge spread across the floor like a pool of blood, shocking and visceral. Though I had never hidden the fact that I wasn't his birth mother, in these 6 years, I could honestly say I had never wronged him. When he was mischievous, I patiently guided him. When he fell ill, I stayed by his bedside. I had instructed everyone in the Hua household to treat him as they would my own flesh and blood. His actions today struck me cold. My hand shot out, gripping his chin firmly. "Tell me, who told you this?" He remained silent, glaring defiantly. Suddenly, I noticed how much his features, which I'd always praised for resembling Xiao Fan, now echoed Yanji's face. "You won't speak? Very well. Let's see who dares spread such malicious lies in the crown prince's presence. Drag them out and beat them to death." Ju burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. This display of weakness disgusted me. If I had a son of my own, he would never be like this, certainly not weeping under duress from someone stronger. When my attendants brought forth the source of the rumor, I was momentarily taken aback, though perhaps I shouldn't have been. 6 years after Yanji's death, only someone fiercely loyal would perpetuate such accusations. "It's you, Kai-cha, the former empress's head palace maid." After Yanji's death, she had refused the emperor's offer of freedom and release from the palace, choosing instead to remain in the laundry bureau, performing the most menial and arduous labor. Such resilience, such dedication. I had underestimated her. Kai-cha knelt before me. When she served Yanji, she had never knelt to me. I lit a stick of incense, the familiar, heavy scent filling the air. The cardamom serenity incense Yanji had favored. "You went to the laundry bureau to avoid kneeling to me, didn't you?" My voice was devoid of emotion. "Unfortunately for you, you still end up kneeling now. When Yanji was alive, she couldn't truly stand against me. When I demanded half her imperial procession, she had to yield. Now you, a mere palace maid, dare to fabricate rumors and poison the crown prince's mind." Kai-cha snapped her head up, her eyes blazing with venomous hatred. "Huo Miao, you murdered my mistress, yet you dare speak her name so brazenly. When you sleep at night, don't you fear retribution?" My hand flashed out, slapping her hard across the face. My sharp nail guard sliced her cheek near her eye, drawing blood. I murdered her? Ridiculous. The midwives attending her birth were handpicked by the emperor himself. The imperial physicians surrounded her chambers. The emperor himself kept vigil nearby. Childbirth is inherently perilous. What gives you the audacity to sling such filth at me? I crouched down, grabbing her hair, forcing her head up. Yanji, why does your ghost still linger? I stared hard into Kai-cha's eyes. I will say this one last time. Yanji died from complications during childbirth. It had nothing to do with anyone else. Kai-cha hung limp in my grasp like a broken doll, but her eyes burned with a hatred that wished to drink my blood and devour my flesh. My heart sank. Further words were useless. She was convinced I was the murderer. It was true on the surface. Yanji's death benefited me immensely. I took her place as empress. The son she died giving birth to was raised by me. Position, favor, heir. I seemingly had everything. Yet, every year on the anniversaries of Yanji's birth and death, didn't Xiao Fan lock himself away in the deserted Chongqing palace? Deep down he had never truly forgotten her. My earlier poetic words had become prophecy. She had indeed seared her most beautiful tragic image onto Xiao Fan's soul. A wave of weariness washed over me. Enough. There's no point discussing this further. I straightened up, beckoning my attendants. Take her away. Beat her to death. As Kai Cha was dragged away, face down on the floor, out of my line of sight, a cold, triumphant smile twisted her lips. Although I had Kai Cha executed and swiftly suppressed the rumors within the palace, the bond between Ju and me was irrevocably broken. He was, after all, the child I had raised for years. His sudden alienation, fueled by those insidious rumors, undeniably pained me. But Xiao Fan's stance mattered more. Thankfully, after years as husband and wife, he seemed to trust me. However, Kai Cha's reappearance served as a jarring wake-up call from the complacency I had fallen into over the past few years. Her adamant accusation that I had murdered Yanji. In my anger over Ju's accusations and distrust, I had ordered her death too hastily, without demanding proof, without questioning why she was so certain I was responsible. A chilling thought flickered through my mind. Could it have been Mother? Years ago, when Yanji first became pregnant, Mother had suggested intervention. I had refused then. But if she had acted secretly, her actions were essentially mine. When my mother was summoned to the palace, I scarcely recognized her. My mother, always the most beautiful, composed matriarch among the great Qi nobility. The woman before me now was frail, haggard, streaks of silver threaded through her temples. She was no longer the shrewd, capable mistress of the Huo household, but simply an ordinary woman seeking her daughter's aid. What has happened at home? Mother, what's wrong? I asked frantically, rising in alarm. Mother waved a weak hand, her physical state seemingly mirroring her drained spirit. It's your maternal uncle's family. My uncles. Xiao Fan was wary of consort families interfering in politics. Since becoming empress, I had deliberately reduced contact with the Huo clan to avoid his displeasure, summoning them only a few times a year. Things are different now, Meower. Confined within these palace walls, you are deaf and blind to the outside world. The emperor's methods have grown more sophisticated over the years, Mother continued, her voice flat. Our Huo family no longer holds the same indispensable position as during the founding years. The court teams with talented officials he no longer needs us to recruit soldiers or rally support. A bitter twist touched her lips. When the cunning hare is caught, the hunting dog is cooked. We offered charcoal in the snow, support when he needed it most. Now, he dismantles the bridge after crossing the river. The he, of course, was Xiao Fan. Mother, I hissed urgently. We are in the palace. Be careful of watchful ears. Mother seemed indifferent. After a long pause, she elaborated. Your maternal uncles were imprisoned a few days ago. Do you know why? Your second uncle has a concubine who, relying on his name, caused someone's death. Outside, several censors jointly impeached him. The emperor ordered a full investigation. Pulling up the radish reveals the mud attached. They uncovered evidence of illicit moneylending, interfering in lawsuits. Such minor transgressions occur in every noble household. Why target ours specifically? Mother's face grew even paler. Without the emperor's tacit approval, would those censors dare be so bold? Censors, ultimately they are just attack dogs bred by him. Great families were interconnected like branches of a tree. A blow to my mother's family inevitably impacted the Huo clan. Only then did I truly understand. While Xiao Fan continued to show me favor within the palace walls outside, he had already begun dismantling the power base of the Huo family and its allies. A heavy silence fell between us. We were adrift, helpless. How had things deteriorated to this point? As my mother turned to leave, her figure frail in the doorway, I finally voiced the question that had haunted me. Mother, wait. Tell me truthfully. Yanji's death, were you involved? A long weary sigh escaped her. You are my only daughter, your father's only daughter. When have we ever gone against your wishes? Your eyes. They can no longer see clearly, meower. If something happens to the Huo family in the future, do not speak, do not interfere. Do not summon me again. Your father and I can no longer protect you. Take care of yourself. Mother pushed open the door and walked away. Through the open doorway, the setting sun hung low, painting the horizon blood red. Mother's silhouette blurred in the fading golden light. A profound chill enveloped me, rooting me to the spot. I watched, unable to move, as her figure dwindled and finally disappeared. I never saw her again. It was our final farewell. That night I dreamed of Yanji. In the dream she lay covered in blood, weak and exhausted on the birthing bed. Kai-cha stood beside her, along with several midwives. Everything proceeded calmly. Newborn Ju, wrapped tightly in swaddling clothes, lay beside her. She gently touched his tiny hand, then looked slowly at each person in the room, a serene, almost peaceful smile on her face. Her eyes closed. I could feel her life force ebbing away, yet I was bewildered by her calm acceptance, her tranquility in death. How could she bear to leave Xiaofan? How could she entrust her newborn son? I seemed to float above the scene, an unseen observer. Suddenly Yanji's eyes snapped open. They seemed to meet mine, and a knowing, profoundly meaningful smile touched her lips. I bolted upright in bed, drenched in cold sweat, my heart pounding. You're awake. A lamp flickered to life, the sudden brightness stinging my eyes. In the warm lamplight, Xiaofan stood beside my bed. I pushed aside the bed curtains. Your Majesty? Why have you come? He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Time had been exceptionally kind to this man. Compared to when I first met him, he had only gained a mature, masculine charisma, potent and intoxicating as aged wine. He spoke, his voice slightly hoarse. You were calling the late Empress's name just now. He stared intently at me, scrutinizing my expression for any telltale sign. Yes, I admitted calmly. Your servant did indeed dream of the late Empress. The sharp crack of a slap shattered the silence of my chamber. Disbelief warred with the stinging pain on my left cheek. Calm down, I told myself, digging my nails into my palm. Xiaofan roared, his face contorted with rage. You venomous woman! How dare you speak her name? I scrambled out of bed. In that instant, the carefully constructed edifice of my confidence crumbled into dust. I had believed that while Yanji held an unforgettable place in his heart, I too had become indispensable to him. His actions over the years, his tenderness, his favor all seemed to point towards love. I had willingly lost myself in this beautiful dream, only to be brutally awakened by that single venomous word. Poisonous. Why shouldn't I dare? The words tore from me, raw and uncontrolled. She was Empress and I am Empress. She came from the gutters. I hail from the noble Huo clan. Why shouldn't I, Huo Miao, speak her name? I had lost all composure. Xiaofan's eyes widened, his hand raising again, poised to strike. In that moment something snapped within me. All pretense, all subservience vanished. I needed an answer, the answer I had feared, avoided, and desperately craved for years. I tilted my face up defiantly. Go on, strike me. His hand froze midair. Then he threw back his head and laughed, a harsh, grating sound filled with unconcealed malice. I recognized that laugh. It was the sound of cruel triumph. Back when I became Empress, filled with my own secret satisfaction, I had laughed like that behind closed doors. Huo Miao, he sneered. Did you truly think I wouldn't dare strike you? His gaze held only mockery and disgust. It was a look that made me instinctively recoil, my mind racing, desperately trying to piece together the years, the signs I must have missed. You relied solely on your family background. Did you think your actions left no trace? I gathered my strength, forcing the words out. What actions? For years I managed your harem, raised your son. What terrible deed have I committed that warrants you calling me a venomous woman? As the veil of affection ripped away, I finally faced the truth. The love I thought we shared, the bond one cherished. It had all been an illusion, a mirage in the desert. He had woven a dream so captivating I refused to wake up. Something must have happened, some final piece falling into place, for him to shatter it now, revealing his true hand. Xiaofan's suspended hand struck down with vicious force. Another sharp slap sent me reeling to the floor. You murdered Yanji. I looked up, my cheeks already swelling, throbbing. You tampered with her during childbirth. He spat, his voice trembling with fury. Nearly killing both mother and child. If Aji hadn't fought with her last breath to deliver Ju. He couldn't continue, the rage in his eyes threatening to consume me. So that's it, I whispered numbly. The true nature of this crisis finally became clear. Yanji's death. It wasn't my doing, nor my mother's. Yet he and they were so certain. I was lost in a fog, unable to grasp the truth. If he suspected me all along, why reveal it only now? He must have feared the Huo family's power before, which meant now. What have you done? Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through my shock. You relied on the Huo family's power, so I decided to rip it out by the roots. Let me tell you, Huo Miao, tonight my imperial decree was issued. The Huo clan is charged with conspiracy and murdering the late empress. Your parents will be beheaded. The rest, exiled to the frontiers, never to return. My body convulsed. The shock was so immense I couldn't even scream. My hand reached out, clutching at his robe, desperate, unbelieving. Xiaofan. How could he treat me this way? A surge of hot blood rose in my chest, and I choked, spitting out a mouthful of bright red heart's blood. He crouched down, prying my fingers from his robe one by one, his expression a mask of cruel satisfaction. Does it hurt, Huo Miao? Terribly? For all these years, every moment I spent beside you, I felt this same pain. You people killed the woman I loved most, yet I had to bestow upon you the honors that rightfully belonged to her, shower you with glory. Every time I touched you, I felt this agony. Your Huo family was too powerful, he continued, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. I had to wait, bide my time, find the perfect opportunity to crush you. Completely. You were so proud of being a daughter of the gentry, weren't you? I despise that arrogant superiority most of all. The esteemed daughter of the Huo clan. So esteemed you could murder my Aji, is that it? He leaned closer, his breath hot against my ear. Do you know why I married you? I shook my head frantically. No. I don't want to hear. Because you are barren. His laughter boomed, sharp and cruel. Huo Miao, your constitution is naturally cold. You cannot conceive. You will never bear children. Your parents knew this all along. Only you were kept in the dark. Xiaofan roared with laughter as tears streamed unnoticed down my face. That night became the agony that defined my existence. My parents, my love, my honor. All stripped away in a single brutal revelation. As consciousness faded, his final whisper echoed in my ears. Even if you could conceive, I would never have allowed your child to be born. Desperately wanted to believe these were just words meant to wound me, designed for revenge, not the hidden truth he had harbored for years. The pain was unbearable. In the 3rd year of the Xuanda era of the Great Qi dynasty, on the 1st day of the 4th month, the founding emperor issued a decree. Execute the head of the Huo clan. On the same day, Empress Huo was deposed. The edict stripping me of my title was proclaimed throughout the land. I was thrown into the cold palace. Life in the cold palace was agonizingly slow. The nights stretched endlessly. I spent my days chanting Buddhist scriptures, praying for the souls of my departed family. Regret consumed me. If I hadn't stubbornly insisted on marrying him all those years ago, would the Huo family have escaped this disastrous end? Even back when I was merely noble consort, I had witnessed Xiaofan's devotion to Yanji. How could I have ever competed with the deep bond forged through shared hardship, the old sword's deep affection? My petty slights against her, the constant needling, stemmed from a jealousy I was ashamed to admit. It was as if diminishing her in other ways could somehow compensate for Xiaofan's preference. But the promotion to imperial noble consort ignited my competitive spirit, pushing me into that fatal gamble, risking everything for the chance of securing Xiaofan's unparalleled love. Blinded by ambition, driven solely by my pursuit of Xiaofan, I had entered the palace heedless of the consequences. I remained utterly oblivious to the catastrophe looming over my family. I was such a fool. When he finally overturned the chessboard, revealing his true intentions, I lost everything. Explaining Yanji's death held no meaning now. Between us lay the blood of my parents, the ashes of my trampled devotion. The depth of my love for Xiaofan was now matched only by the intensity of my hatred. Never underestimate the fury of a woman wronged. Ju came to the cold palace while I was practicing calligraphy. Though stripped of my rank and confined to this sunless place, my basic needs were met. Xiaofan didn't want me dead. That would be too merciful. Forcing me to live like this, a shadow of my former self, was in his eyes the perfect punishment. I had endured 3 years here. 3 years that had forged my spirit into something harder, more resilient. Xiao Fan wanted me to suffer, to crave death yet be unable to attain it. Instead, I clung stubbornly to life. Ju stormed in, tearing my practice sheets, contemptuously splashing ink across my face. His attendants pinned me to the ground, holding me immobile, helpless. Like his father before him, Ju kicked me viciously in the chest, spitting the word poisonous. He had grown taller recently, his chest heaving with rage. 9 years old, already behaving like a feral beast. The kick struck with brutal force, making my vision blur, pain radiating through my chest. I forced myself not to cry out, a faint chilling smile touching my lips. This agony, all of it was finally nearing its end. Day after day, for 3 long years, I had contemplated revenge for my family. How could I make Xiao Fan suffer? I thought, and finally a perfect plan emerged. Ju visited every few days to vent his fury. I understood him. He was stubborn, arrogant, yet neglected. Xiao Fan, preoccupied with state affairs, left his upbringing largely to tutors, offering only harsh reprimands when Ju failed his lessons. Meanwhile, sycophantic courtiers constantly flattered him. The result was a 9-year-old boy simmering with suppressed rage, ready to explode at any moment. As expected, my smile enraged him further. What are you smiling at? I lifted my head, meeting his furious gaze. Why shouldn't I smile? Your mother is dead and buried, but I am still alive. Your imperial father doesn't have the heart to kill me. I threw my head back and laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the desolate room. Even you called me Mother Empress for 6 years, while she has long since rotted into dust beneath the earth. My words hit their mark. Ju's face contorted with fury. He scanned the room wildly, his eyes landing on the heavy Duan inkstone on my table. Seize this bitch's right hand, he screamed. His attendants hesitated, attempting to dissuade him. You dare defy me? Ju shrieked, his authority absolute. Do you disregard the crown prince's command? He snatched up the inkstone, crouching beside me. Ink splattered my face as he pinned my wrist to the floor. He raised the heavy stone high, then brought it down with savage force, the sound sickeningly loud against bone. Agony shot up my arm, but my smile only deepened. Ju's eyes widened and he raised the inkstone again, smashing it down once more. A choked laugh escaped my lips. This searing pain served only to sharpen my resolve, burning away the last vestiges of pity or hesitation. Xiao Fan, after 3 years, it's my turn to set a trap. Let discord bloom between father and son. I had raised Ju, shown him kindness. He could hate me, resent me, but he shouldn't maim me, his former mother figure. By deliberately provoking his rage, I pushed him towards this act of unspeakable cruelty. Tonight was the night I would die. My suicide would forever brand Ju with the stigma of brutality. The ruler of an empire could be mediocre, but never tyrannical. I owed him nothing. He and his father owed me an unpayable debt. As I laughed maniacally amidst the searing pain, a lightning flash of understanding struck me, illuminating thoughts I hadn't grasped before. So that's how it was. Yin, it was you. All along it was you. I was the fool, the villain of your making. Ju recoiled, stunned by my outburst, stumbling back to sit heavily on the floor. He stared at his hands, at the inkstone slick with my blood. Tears of blood and laughter streamed down my face. It was all clear now. I, who prided myself on intelligence, had been as blind and stupid as a pig. This entire tragedy, Yanji had orchestrated it all. No wonder Xiao Fan cherished her memory. No wonder she was the unforgettable first wife. With her own calculated death, Yanji had set the perfect, inescapable trap for me. In the 6th year of the Xuanda era, on the night Ju shattered my right hand, I swallowed gold and ended my life. News of Huo Miao's death reached Xiao Fan the following day. The old palace maid delivering food dropped the tray in terror, finding Huo Miao lying fully clothed on her bed. The surrounding walls were smeared with blood, repeatedly forming the character Yan, wrong/injustice. Xiao Fan struggled to maintain his composure. Why? 3 years. She had endured the cold palace for 3 long years. Why choose death now? His personal eunuch trembled, afraid to speak. Speak! The attendants knelt in unison. The head eunuch finally stammered, steeling himself. It is said, the crown prince visited again yesterday. Xiao Fan slammed his fist on the table. Again? What was he doing there? The crown prince visits perhaps 4 or 5 times a month. Each time the eunuch couldn't continue. Everyone who served the emperor closely had received favors from Empress Huo in the past. Continue. Xiao Fan gritted out. Yesterday the crown prince went again. For some reason, an argument broke out with the Huo woman. He took her inkstone and smashed her right hand. The eunuch kept his head bowed low, not daring to look at the emperor's face. The walls are covered in characters she wrote in her own blood, claiming injustice. He took a deep breath and added daringly, Your Majesty knows the Huo woman practiced calligraphy daily in the cold palace. Beneath her pillow was found a thick stack of papers filled with writing. What was written? Xiao Fan's voice was dangerously quiet. Your Majesty's name. Xiao Fan. For 3 years in the cold palace day after day, these were the only characters she wrote. Hatred, resentment, love, all finally condensed onto the tip of her brush, forming his name over and over. Investigate. Investigate everything. Death extinguishes life like a lamp, but secrets do not always stay buried. An unsettling feeling, cold and heavy, settled in Xiao Fan's heart. The image of Yanji's death resurfaced vividly. He had waited outside, hearing her agonizing screams, sweat pouring down his back. The sound of Ju's first cry brought immense relief, quickly shattered when the midwife rushed out, frantic. Your Majesty, the Empress. She is failing. He burst into the delivery room. His agi was fading, life draining away. In her final moments she wept, pleading, Take care of our child. Her voice was barely a whisper. She weakly pointed to her heart. Pain. Resent. Huo Miao. The words caught in her throat. Her hand, clutching his sleeve, went limp. He felt hollowed out, numb. Voices swirled around him. The midwife cried. This birth was perilous. The Empress ordered us to save the child at all costs. We had no choice, Your Majesty. Yanji's dying words echoed in his ears. He became convinced Huo Miao had sabotaged the birth, fueling the years of calculated revenge against her and her family. He had spent 3 years dismantling the Huo clan, deposing Huo Miao, finally avenging his beloved wife. But now faced with Huo Miao's brutal end at Ju's hands, her desperate suicide, her final blood-written cry of injustice, doubt gnawed at him. He reopened the investigation into the circumstances of Empress Yanji's death. The midwives who attended the birth had been quietly executed long ago, though their families were spared. The investigation revealed these families had relocated. Finally, his secret agents located the son of one of the midwives. Kneeling before the emperor, the man confessed everything he knew. My mother received instructions beforehand. Once the empress passed, even if Your Majesty did not order their deaths, they were prepared to follow her. The empress had shown our families great kindness. We were sworn to protect the crown prince. Her headmaid promised us that when the prince learned the truth someday, our families would be handsomely rewarded. The truth. Cold, hard, and utterly chilling. Yanji had deliberately overnourished herself, making the fetus dangerously large, ensuring a difficult birth. The midwives were her loyalists, yet she cleverly made Xiao Fan believe they were Huo Miao's agents. In her narrative, Huo Miao murdered her. Knowing the Huo families, power protected Huo Miao for the moment. Yanji planted a seed of suspicion in Xiao Fan's heart. She understood his pride. Being forced to tolerate the woman he believed killed his love would be a festering wound. The longer it took, the deeper the thorn would embed itself, until one day, he would rip it out, flesh and all. Huo Miao saw Yanji as a thorn in her side. Yanji viewed Huo Miao likewise. Yanji endured Huo Miao's provocations, even yielding half her procession, only to see Xiao Fan reward Huo Miao with promotion instead of punishment. What did that make her? The powerless, common-born first wife? Never forget friends from humble beginnings. Never abandon the wife who shared hardship. But a wife without imperial favor, without family backing. How could she withstand the relentless advance of a powerful, favored consort? She was afraid. Afraid because she saw it in Xiao Fan's eyes, the undeniable flicker of attraction, of interest, towards Huo Miao's noble beauty and bearing. He was, after all, originally from the gentry himself, merely fallen on hard times. Deep down, perhaps he recognized Huo Miao as one of his own kind. And so Yanji made the ultimate gamble. Using her own life while Xiao Fan still held affection for her, she bet everything on ensuring Huo Miao would never find peace, never truly win. Everything was laid bare. The deadly battle between two women finally concluded. Yanji used her death to frame Huo Miao. Huo Miao used her death to ensure Xiao Fan's revulsion towards Ju's brutality. They fought to the death, initially perhaps only for a man's heart. Gu Jianqing Shan Nan Yuan Eai. Old Sword's deep affection, Southern Garden's lingering love. These 8 characters became the final epitaph for Empress Yan and Empress Hua in the annals of the Great Qi dynasty. They stood on opposite sides of fate's scale. Who did Xiao Fan truly love? Yanji wanted to know, Huo Miao desperately needed to know. The court officials speculated, the common folk whispered, and later historians debated endlessly. If he truly loved Yanji, why allow Huo Miao to be buried beside him in the Southern Garden mausoleum? If he truly loved Huo Miao, how could he cast her into the cold palace, ruthlessly exterminate her entire family? Perhaps Xiao Fan himself never truly knew. The clear lotus, the passionate rose, in the end he had failed them both. End.